Hey guys, before we start this week's episode, I just want to say that there might be a bit of sound issues on the podcast this week because we had some technical problems, but I did the best I can to fix it, and I highly recommend checking this one out. Anyways, have a great time and enjoy.
Hey guys, this is Josh from Grapplezilla. Today we got a great guest. We got Andreas Perales from Cyprus, who is a black belt in Jiu Jitsu and runs the best Brazilian Jiu Jitsu school in Cyprus. He's a competitor. The guy has amazing amount of knowledge. He's an amazing instructor, and I'm very happy to have him. Andreas, Kalimera, how you doing, my friend?
Good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic, my man. So, Andreas, how I know about you is through a mutual friend. And I remember years ago, maybe a decade ago, I was rolling with a friend. He said, there's this guy in Cyprus. He's a judoka, very good at judo, and he's doing jiu-jitsu. And I think at the time, I can't remember if you were associated with Renzo Gracie and you were climbing. So tell me, you started in judo. What's your background in judo?
Yeah, I started around 8 years old, judo. In one point of my life, I was doing pretty good. And in one of the competitions, I met the national coach of wrestling. So around 15 years old, I was doing both. I was doing judo and wrestling. Actually, until 18 years old, I was doing just judo and wrestling.
Okay. So you already had a very, very great background in grappling prior to getting into jiu-jitsu. So how did you find jiu-jitsu and decide to start in BJJ? Like, what led you?
Yeah. So I had a friend that he was in the special forces. So apparently, like in the special forces, they gave him a tape with UFC 1 or 2, something like that. And they told him, like, there is this guy in Nicosia that teaches jiu-jitsu, so you should go and find him. So, like, the guy calls me and is like, man, I went to training and jiu-jitsu is close to judo. It's very similar. So if you can lend me your kimono for my next training. And I was like, why? When you hear Brazilian jiu-jitsu, immediately goes to something different. I was thinking about capoeira or something that has to do related to dance. So I said, okay, I will come and train as well. And that time, like the coach, he was Renzo Gracie belt, was Pandelis Panagidis. He was actually in New York training with Renzo Gracie. So the guy had a lot of knowledge, He wasn't just a regular dude watching videos and teaching jiu-jitsu. So his knowledge of jiu-jitsu was pretty advanced at that time. We're talking 2004. So I was very impressed and I said, okay, I want to learn this thing. It's going to help me to my judo ground game. And actually, a few years later, I fall in love with jiu-jitsu and I quit judo and I continue with jiu-jitsu.
It's interesting. A lot of people don't know, like I've been to Cyprus a few times, 3 times. I was there this summer. Amazing place. Guys, if you ever can go to Cyprus, visit. The nicest people on the earth. I'm telling you, great vibe, great food, great beach. Just, they know how to live. If there was a culture to teach people to live, it'd be the Cypriots. I'm telling you. And I remember I think the first time I was there, I was in Limassol. And I was walking with a friend of mine and he did jiu-jitsu. I can't remember what he did in Limassol, but he introduces me to this massive dude. I think it was at a Hicks and Gracie associated school, I think. And the guy was in the military in Cyprus. I think he was even a Special Forces or Navy SEAL. He looked like a Greek god, okay? And I'm telling you, in Cyprus, you got some tough boys. And there was, I forgot the name, there was a UFC fighter, very famous guy from Cyprus. What was the name? Yes, he was a tough boy. I remember him too. And yeah, I can definitely see how Cyprus produces some tough guys and talented guys. Also, it's, I think, the perfect climate and atmosphere to do it. They're so chill, and they just, it's awesome. So that said, how is it to train in Cyprus in the early days of jiu-jitsu before it was crazy? Because it's different now. How was it before this?
So actually, the first experience of jiu-jitsu was like puzzle mat, tough guys that they didn't have any technique, but they were like tough dudes who were doing jiu-jitsu back then. So my experience was like train to spar and kill each other. I wasn't paying attention to any techniques and stuff, like just spar hard.
How much is your weight? Like how much do you weigh? Like in what size category?
77 kilos.
Okay, so now I get an idea. So it's a very, very tough division as well as in jiu-jitsu. That's the one where you gotta, like anywhere around that weight. Also in wrestling, 74, that's the division.
Yeah.
Did you find that you were throwing some of these guys with the judo, or was it, okay. So what's your favorite judo throw, by the way? What's the go-to for you?
The fireman's carry.
Opa. Yeah, and do you find that you can pull it off in jiu-jitsu without, so you've actually adapted it to the jiu-jitsu. Oh man, so that's very interesting because fireman's carry is amazing because it places, for a lot of people who don't know judo or wrestling, it's called Nicosia in Russian. And the fireman's carry is great for jiu-jitsu for if you can do it without getting caught because it puts them in the perfect position to attack. And like it's a lion on its prey. In this case, it's a Cypriot lion. So how is the jiu-jitsu scene now in Cyprus?
Oh, pretty big. We consider that Cyprus has like less than 1 million inhabitants. We have around 15, 20 academies, and some of them are like with good instructors, a lot of black belts, a lot of competitors. They have some achievements, let's say, in the BJJ scene. No, I actually am pretty impressed with the Cyprus level.
I am too. And is there a difference between maybe the culture of the jiu-jitsu in Nicosia compared to Limassol? Limassol's being on the beach, Nicosia being in the center of the country, the largest city, and it's, I believe, the capital. Is there a difference?
Look, yeah, it is a difference. Like last years, Limassol became like let's say, small Russia.
I noticed, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of Russians live in Limassol, so a lot of Russian academies in Limassol with a lot of kids, and we're talking like a lot of thousands of Russians that now they live in Limassol. And that actually, this is amazing because
I think it's good.
And in all aspects, that puts more eyes to the sport, and I think the bigger the world, the bigger is gonna grow the sport.
Absolutely. And I think there's also, like, I know quite a few Russians. A lot of times it's great because I find they're very strong, but also once you befriend them, they're very open-minded and they have a lot of knowledge from Sambo and wrestling that it's not that they come to address you like, oh, I know everything. They just said, you can ask them and they'll show you. And I think it's very good. Another thing is, do you find Cyprus's location? Because Cyprus, for people who don't know, it's in the eastern part of the Mediterranean, very close to Turkey, Israel, and also, of course, Greece. Do you find that makes it better for you or harder?
And the most important is an island.
It's an island. So, beautiful.
Yeah. So there is the positive and the negative things. I think the positive is that, okay, an island, you have an island life with like pretty safe, let's say. But in terms of competition, I think it's a little bit hard because it's hard for traveling, cost more to go and compete compared to other countries that they have borders and they may go
just with a car. Yeah, I definitely think that could be something. And we're going to talk about something that you have later at the beach camp, but because that is the coolest thing I saw. So you've done jiu-jitsu. Who were especially the older guys like us, because there wasn't so much jiu-jitsu at the time and the internet wasn't so big. Who was your inspirations and role models in BJJ prior to becoming a black belt? Because I think with us older guys, because a lot of us didn't have a black belt around us, so we tried to emulate. We tried to become like, for example, Leo Vera or Henzo. Who was yours?
Maybe Andrea Galvao, I would say. in the early days, like when he was middleweight, and he was like competing also to open weight, and I really liked his style. Then it became Lucas Lepri,
Very good.
JT Torres.
Yeah. And you did have a JT Torres seminar, which I heard was amazing.
Yeah,
How was that?
amazing, man. You know, like after I became a black belt and I owned my own academy, I started looking different things among the people I want to look up to. And it's not just technique and being tough or winning competitions. It's about the impact they leave to the community. You can be famous because you trash talk, and you can be famous or like by doing better community. You know, you're creating a better community. And in my eyes, do we want more Gordon Ryans in our academy, or we want more Lucas Lepri or JT Torres in our academy? Because everybody will say, but it's good for the sport. But okay, do you want more of these people in your academy? So this is how I see it. Our job is to create, like we in front line, and younger kids are looking up to us, and according to what we say, what we do, they will try to be. So, yeah.
I think it's very important. I think I absolutely agree with you. So, you know, when Jiu-Jitsu started and you had the UFC, it wasn't like it is now. There wasn't so much trash talk. There was still a martial arts essence of respect. And I think what happened, probably because of the change in the generation, from Generation X to Millennial, and then the rest, and the access to, because of the internet and your device, which is the phone,
social media,
that I think people became a little bit more like the dog behind the window, going without anyone opening the window. When the old school, you know that if you talk, there could be a slap, right? Which in one way means if someone talks, you know, they're very serious, you know? But at the end of the day, legacy isn't built on swearing and everything. Oh, some people have that, but I think legacy is what you do on your last breaths. And you look back and people remember, you know, they say, listen, this man helped thousands of children during his career and he created a better earth. Okay.
Yeah.
And I agree with you 100%. And I respect you for that. Now, here's an interesting question. Because you do come from a judo background, do you prefer to compete more in gi or no gi? This is an interesting one.
Actually, no gi. You know, what I think is because of the introduction of the leg lock. A lot of things change, you know, the dynamic changed a lot. You can see blue belts now and have black belts because they just focus on that leg lock game and they are specialists. But they have big gaps on the different style. If you take Gil Cooks, for example, out of their game, they were going to be bad blue belts. So I think, I think it's more realistic, the no-gi game, but with focus just on leg locks, we have now two categories, in my opinion. Shortcut version and the like more wrestling oriented, and you know, like the high level grapplers are now you see them, they just have a basic game like Roger Gracie, mount and finishing people, or what we saw lately Gordon doing, you know, like mount and pressure and finishing people. Everybody at that level will go back to the basics, in my opinion.
I absolutely agree with you. It's, you know, it's a two-edged sword, leg locks, right? It's very good to know because they're very effective, especially if someone's larger. I mean, this is amazing, but it does produce a lot of holes in younger belts. And then what happens is these younger belts haven't been in jiu-jitsu for too long. So what happens? They haven't seen that jiu-jitsu evolves. So what happens is, as we saw now and kind of in the ADCC and CJI, it isn't the leg lock game that you saw 2 events before. Now it's wrestling. Wrestling and domination to the top, trying to get like a power half in terms of the Nelsons. They're starting to get there, which if you've been in the game for a long time, like yourself, you see, okay, this is where it's going for the next years. But of course, it's evolution, action, reaction. And the reaction, I mean, in my opinion, would maybe be going back to a closed guard for those who can't wrestle. Or it's just going to become more and more top dominance with the bottom going straight into a very complicated half guard scenario where it's very tight and trying to reverse. But if you're only doing leg locks, you can't understand that. And in jiu-jitsu, people say, yes, but you know, in the gi, Roger is a basic game. And yes, 100%. But his basic game is at a PhD level for those moves. And every single route that you take, he knows, and he's going to get it. Patience. I love Roger, and I'm sure you do. We all do. I mean, Roger's the man, you know. But I think this is very interesting what you said. Do you find that with the no-gi, you were able to adapt your judo properly?
Actually, yes. You know, I'm teaching few judo moves on my classes, and I try to apply them for jiu-jitsu. So most of the throws are throws that will not going to expose your back. In judo, we see a lot of like fans throws that if we continue the game, most likely the person being thrown, you will end up on your back. So yeah, I think by doing this thing, like other hooks, and I was able to do this in my game.
Do you find you're able to pull foot sweeps off? Because I found foot sweeps, the judokas just have this superpower. I mean, you pulling foot sweep?
Actually, I was never a foot sweep guy, more a wrestling guy. I was doing like double legs, but back then judo were allowed to drop legs and do all these things. So I have my wrestling judo, let's say.
Okay. Well, first of all, that's a great judo to have coming into jiu-jitsu. So you lucked out there. You know? Now, Cyprus is in Europe. It's in the European Union, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the growth of BJJ in Europe? And I'll explain. I think Europe's BJJ, especially with Adam winning the heavyweight, the super heavyweight, is really something that people weren't watching before. But I think that they should. I think there's a lot of talent in Europe. I think the methodology that they use to learn and discipline, as you see, for example, if you look in football, soccer to all Americans, if you ever see a European team, the discipline they have is like a military. And I'm not saying it's there for jiu-jitsu. I'm sure that's still very easygoing. But what do you think about the growth of BJJ in Europe? Where is it going to go? Like, what's going to happen in the future there?
Oh, it's going to grow pretty much. Like I see jiu-jitsu the same way judo grow. Like in the beginning, the dominant country were Japan. Like what we saw with Brazilians, you know. Then the Brazilians moved to the United States. Now the powerhouse is the United States. But also a few of them, they moved to Europe. And now Europe is catching up, you know. I think Europe, because of, I think, I'm not going to say that more economic stability compared to other regions, and the diversity between the cultures. You know, we have like in very small kilometer, like very short distance, different cultures and different ways to train. And this is what is helping, I think, the European athletes to grow. So I think Europe will catch up pretty soon, and I see the Eastern Europe like this upcoming, you know, Pakistanis, Kazakhstan, and all these Russian, like Soviet Union countries catching up pretty fast.
Yeah, I agree. I think you said something very smart. So for those who aren't watching judo, Europe has amazing judo. Okay, you have some really big powerhouses in judo. And although they were smaller countries, they still did very well, produced champions, produced very good judo programs. Now, the difference is judo is a nationalized sport. So what happens? You have a union. And in jiu-jitsu, for the most part, you don't have that if you don't. So that has to be noted on why it was there. But also in Europe, you had some amazing jiujiteros who moved there, which is, of course, you have Roger. Of course, you have Braulio Estima in England. You have Ricardo Vieira, who's in Portugal. And you have many, many guys there who can help seed that Brazilian knowledge to mix with the European abilities. So I agree with you. And I think the East Europeans, I mean, that's going to be very interesting to see because you have kind of two schools. You have near the Caucasus, all those countries, regardless if you say Europe or Asia, but you understand it's from Russia, this southern Russia. And then you have East Europe of, let's say, the Balkans going up to Poland, etc. Poland, I mean, for those who don't know, Polish people are built like Robocop and Superman put together. You know what I mean? And they're just destroyers. You know? I agree. And, you know, will we see more BJJ world champs coming out of Europe? And when? That's the question.
I think so.
Me too.
Yeah, I think so because what Alan did, it's amazing, but it's expected. You know, you like after I said, Brazilians, I think, in my opinion, let's the Brazilians being on final in the next years. Not because they're bad, but because everybody else is catching up. And I think Europe and the States, they have better facilities and they have the
money.
Travel. If you see like a lot of Brazilian talent is get lost because of the lack of traveling, competing, or if they are not lucky enough to move out of Brazil, maybe we never heard of them, we never see them competing.
Yeah, there's something about Brazilians. I must admit that I always wonder how many Brazilians are denied visas to places because they have to get a visa, and it must be just like devastating. These guys have so much talent and they can't train somewhere because they can't even get in the country. Which, yeah, that's a big issue for sure. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that there will be more world champs coming out of Europe. The question is when, but I think it's inevitable. I mean, there was that English guy at CJI with an impeccable guard. I mean, bald guy. He's from London Submission Fighters Academy. Now, I was watching this guard. I was like, wow, what is this? This is really a guy who knew how to roll. Like, it was eye-opening, you know? So, and I apologize if I don't remember the name. Sometimes nobody's there. But that said, I'll go back to one more question on Europe. What positives does European BJJ have that other regions don't have that you notice? Is there something yet developed in the game that you see or not yet?
I think one like very good example is this leg lock guys that they come from Poland and
England, yes.
so also in England there are a lot of they just they start being more specific or ADCC rules or traditional IBJJF like Adam did, for example.
I have a theory. So I've been to Europe quite a bit. Great place to travel. And I noticed that there's even though economically it's very stable, people live and are more into the local community. So if they do a sport, they're really into that sport and they train it a lot more. I noticed that because in the US and as well as Canada a little bit, you notice that because there's so much out there, you're always getting hit with new stuff. Someone might be doing jiu-jitsu and then surfing. Those two go together, of course. But then, of course, they have video games and going out and Taco Tuesday. And what happens, that culture becomes a little bit driven into the academy. And because academies want to make more money, because in the end of the day, people have to survive, right? They're going to adapt jiu-jitsu to become more for the mainstream. And in Europe, as we see in judo, like martial arts schools in Europe, they're all hard. They don't.
Actually, I have the answer.
Go ahead.
compared to the States, Jiu-Jitsu is more affordable in Europe. This is what I think. Like, if you ask prices here in the States, it's not even close to what we pay in Europe. And if we go to other countries like Brazil and like that, they don't have the money. I think Europe, they have the right balance. They earn a lot of money to afford Jiu-Jitsu, not for that expensive, and everybody can do it.
Yeah.
It's not a rich
man's sport. Yeah.
Rich.
And also, you end up having a longevity of the student is more balanced. So you make less on your student, but there's no real, like if there's economic problems, then they say, okay, but we'll put a little Stefanos inside Andreas's community because it's there. So I that's a very, very good point. Thank you for that. Here's the interesting thing. You've been at BJJ a long time. You've seen it evolve and change for the good and the bad, because I always say this, at the end of every meal, there's a bill. No matter how good the bill is, you have to pay. What are your thoughts on the status of BJJ at the moment, of how we see BJJ, and where is it going to go? For example, now, I think it's very specialized, much more than it was. You're seeing beautiful things, but what do you think of where we are now, where we're going to go, etc.?
I have a theory that it's a circle, okay? And my theory is that in one point, everything will lead to, because everybody will become very good. We see in the season, we see more satisfying because I take down someone and no one can take down anyone. So we just look like two guys that push each other. Why? Because they are too good on everything else, and this is how you start. So this is my one theory, that no-gi will become wrestling, and Jiu-Jitsu is going to become like the old Judo, like throws and ground fight.
This is actually very interesting, and I actually agree with you. I think what will happen is it would become, I think the gi is a bit more difficult. It'll take longer to get to Judo because you have the element of pulling guard. Okay, so that's there. But in the no-gi, I think what will happen, it will become like a type of, it would become of what catch wrestlers want catch wrestling to be, but with the guard. What does it mean? It means it's a fully based system that it will be jiu-jitsu, but you have a lot of scrambling from wrestling in order to dominate the top position, and a lot of throwing. And the only thing that's going to stop the progression of this fast will be the rules. If the rules change a bit, especially regarding passivity. If there's passivity calls, you're going to start seeing jiu-jitsu really evolve into the beast, I think it was at the beginning. And then going to MMA, you're going to see many more MMA champions come from a jiu-jitsu background, because lying down and not doing anything is not an option. That's one thing that I like about judo. And you definitely, I can guarantee, if I was standing with you, we're both going for it. And you're going to throw me with that great fireman's carry, and it's going to be a little bit of an earthquake. But it's very interesting. I think it will go full circle, and I think you're right on that one. And what are your goals in the future regards to your own BJJ and your school?
So, as I mentioned before, I'm trying to be a better role model. I'm not trying to lately I had to think again, what's your reason you're doing jiu-jitsu? A lot of times you get caught in routine and things changes, and in one point you start questioning, what are you doing? You left your job to become jiu-jitsu instructor, not because of the money, and now you're chasing maybe more students and more promotion, and so you need to find the balance. So in my opinion, yes, we need the students to survive. At the end of the day, we have bills we have to pay, we want to grow, we want to do a better academy and serve better our members. But I think the most important part as a coach is the impact we give to the younger generation and to anyone that walks into the academy. we're talking about the great champions and the competition, but at the end of the day, there is so many people, much more than the ones that they will compete, that they just walk into the academy and they find a reason to exist, like they find a hobby or a family or a friend. How many guys from my academy, they became friends, they New England to competition. So I mean, that's the talking, you know, the community, it's a big environment for everybody to evolve.
I think I absolutely agree. Some people call it holistic approach. I don't think it's a holistic approach. I think it's just the ultimate goal of martial arts was two things. The first thing of martial arts originally was battle. There's no going around it. But the second thing is us as humans, we need social circles and we need positivity and growth. And I think jiu-jitsu is pretty much the best thing for it because you get a good workout. You breathe like this. You have positivity. You also overcome your difficulties and become a better person, and you learn how to do them. And I think you're 100% right. Now, Palestra Jiu-Jitsu in Nicosia. Tell me about how many students, what kind of classes do you have there?
So we are total around 100 students with kids and adults. So we run a kids program starting for 4 years old until 7, and then we go from 7 up to 12 years old. And then we have the adult class that we have teams combine joining the adult class.
And do you find that to run a school in Cyprus is more difficult than, for example, other places, or it's easier because of the Cypriot attitude, or?
I think it's very hard because, as I mentioned before, like we are a small country, we're less than 1 million, and in our cities, even like maybe 200,000 people, and you have many academies now. You have like 5 or 6 academies in this city. So you have to compete with these academies. You have to compete with our sports. You have to compete with the laziness of the kids and of people that they just want to skip class, or they just want to play a video game, or they don't feel like training. Actually, it's very challenging.
Yes, I believe it's challenging, but it's also fulfilling when you have the success. Until then, I can imagine it's very tough. And Palestra, do you only do jiu-jitsu, or do you have cross-training with judo or kickboxing?
Wrestling.
It's lovely.
We have twice a week, and actually who's teaching is my previous wrestling instructor.
The national coach, that guy.
Yeah, he not anymore. Now he's a triathlon coach. The guy actually is amazing. Christos Christou is like a real coach. I say I'm not a real coach. I'm a professor, an instructor. I learn from experience. But he actually studied this thing. He actually went to university about sports science and coaching, and he has big achievements in triathlon. And as a young wrestler, I really appreciate him as a coach. He was amazing.
And it's freestyle or Greco or combination? Freestyle. And here's a very odd question. Do you wear shoes during the wrestling or no?
No.
Okay. So you have the adaptability back to jiu-jitsu. And the wrestling with gi or without, or it's both?
Without the gi.
Okay. Well, that's actually you have a really good academy. I mean, if you have that, like your level jiu-jitsu and knowledge also with the judo, with that type of wrestling, I mean, that's a hot spot right there, buddy. So good for you, man. That's how you grow. That's how you grow good students, good champions, and also not even about champions. That's how you just grow good kids, because wrestling's tough. Does he run it like with proper conditioning and it's a real wrestling?
Yes. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Like a lot of times, he just telling to the jiu-jitsu guys that they just finished training, just stay for the conditioning, because he will push them. That they will tire.
Although there's a great transfer to to jiu-jitsu for wrestling conditioning. Although jiu-jitsu has a little bit different because you have that static build because you don't have passivity and no stand-up. But I don't think it's going to hurt jiu-jitsu if you had the wrestling conditioning. So, no.
I think
go ahead. No, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I just think friends is making them do
Definitely. And I think one of the best parts is wrestling in the end of the day has two elements that transfer amazingly to jiu-jitsu. One is the scramble. You really learn how to scramble. And the second is you have to do something. So one of the issues with jiu-jiteros who don't do wrestling is when they're standing up, they're so scared to go for a shot or to go for a takedown. And they keep in this kind of like a pocket. They're afraid to go forward or back. Now in wrestling, you have to. Your coach is going to say, what are you doing? Shoot, attack, attack, attack. So you build here. You build a real attacking person, which is fantastic. Now, BJJ and Beach Camp. Guys, Andreas has got this amazing idea and this amazing thing going, which first of all, Cyprus has got great beaches, great sea. Add some BJJ, the Cypriot vibe, the Cypriot food. Tell me about it. BJJ and Beach Camp. What is it?
Yeah. So, that started. So, well, okay, we're in an island. This is very hard to reach high-level competitors or seminars. So, we have a great beach, we have great food. So, let's create a holiday for great champion and to promote it so other people come from other countries. And this is how the idea came to me, like to start something like a training camp, but it's a combination with holidays. And actually, it's the 10th year we did it. So we had 8 camps.
How long is it?
So a week.
So just some questions. So basically it would be that they train once a day and then they can go to the beach, or how does it work?
Twice a day. So we do a morning training, then we have some activities that everybody can join, then evening training, and again we go eat and spend time together. So we have a lot of training, but the idea is we try to do things together in the morning after training, so we get people to know each other. And the most important, to get to know also the coach. That's the key part. We have one coach, and we aim to have a very good coach, like someone that fits the vibe of the camp, and like spending time with world champion.
Oh, okay. So you actually have proper coaches.
Yeah.
Wow.
Imagine that you're doing the beach playing volleyball with someone you're looking up to, and then you drinking coffee and you asking all these questions. You know how many things are outside of the mat from these guys. Amazing. This is the difference between a seminar and this camp. I think is that you get into the personality of the person, or the mindset of the person, and then you can understand like how this guy became who became.
Wow. Who are some of the coaches you've had in the past that maybe people would know?
Yeah. So we did 3 times camp with Gio and Boogie Martinez from 10th Planet.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Amazing guys. I love them so much. They so good and so like good heart and open-minded. And that's the element they brought to the camp, like open mind and creative jiu-jitsu. So we had a b-boying sessions and yeah.
Okay, so this is a proper camp. You had other guys other than Gio?
Yeah. So it was 3 times, like 3 years we did it with them. We had with Palestra, we had with the Lucas Lepri, and 2 times with the T-Forest.
Wow. Okay. So guys, this is a camp you want to go to. We're with Andreas there too. You guys can't miss this camp. I got to tell you, I love Cyprus. I got to tell you, I love it. What gets me is the vibe, man. The vibe of the people are so friendly, so chill. So if I had that vibe, man, amazing. Now, when is the camp? Like, is it during the winter? Is it summer?
It's summer
Okay.
camp. The summer camp, it's between August and end of July. So depends of the availability of the coach and depends of the availability of the hotel that we hosting the camp
In Limassol?
in Rodaras, actually.
Is that near, okay.
You can check this out. I believe it's the best beach, maybe in Europe. Like, I'm not saying because I'm from here, but you have the Maldives vibe, let's say, like,
The Maldives vibe, yeah.
but without the shark.
What are the sharks they have on the mat?
Yeah, you have the sharks on the map. These are the sharks.
Wow. So, okay, now I get the vibes. It's a world-class beach. I'm imagining the hotel's very nice because all the hotels in Cyprus are always good. The service in Cyprus is amazing. I mean, it's like, can I be honest? Cyprus service, what I like about it, it's not like when you go to England and say, would you like to eat, sir? It's like your grandma is serving you with love, and she's going to sit there. She's going to, like, to my nephews and nieces, they come and they start pinching the cheeks. And when we left the hotel, you got a friend. It's like that. And I love that. Now, what we'll do is we'll put the link for the BJJ camp in the description. Guys, check that out. I highly recommend it. Not because I've been to the camp, because I've been to Cyprus and it's great. And I've heard very good things of Andreas from other friends. We have a common friend named Roy Neman, who was on the podcast prior, and that one I definitely check out. And I think Roy was at one of these camps, no? Or he came to...
Yes, he was 2 years ago with the first camp with Jiujiteros.
Yeah, he said it was amazing. He said it was... And yeah, maybe I'll check out one day. Now, yeah, here's a question. I mean, jiu-jitsu, one of the beauties of jiu-jitsu is that whenever you go on a vacation, you can always make it a bit of a jiu-jitsu vacation. Of course, there's some academies and associations who don't like that, but most academies are pretty open and they like to have a new person. Where's your favorite place that you traveled, not including Brazil, if you've been to Brazil, that you were just like, okay, so not including Brazil, because Brazil, of course, is the Mecca. Where's your favorite place where you're like, wow, this is a great vibe, great culture, great academy? I'm sure you've been to a lot. So
Yeah, I really like DM in Kochi.
nice.
And when you're in the Blackbelt, everybody's in Pakistan. So every time you go visit, all right, if I go visit, I'm just
More. The Spartan has to come, not the so.
And actually, my favorite place to visit is in Milan. It's my own academy. Actually, I was studying in Milan, and this is where I fall in love with Jiu-Jitsu. I started in Cyprus, but I continued during my studies in an academy called Milanimal.
Oh, that's a great name, Milanimal.
Yeah, Milanimal.
Animal, yeah, I love.
Milanimal.
How was the jiu-jitsu scene in Italy?
Oh, it was pretty big, and I think it's pretty big.
Yeah, there's
I think
some good talent there. I don't know what competition, but there's a team Italy that was going to some major competition, and I checked some of the guys out.
Yeah,
there you go. And they were very talented, so it's good to see. So, okay, that's one thing. Now, what do you want to share with the audience about your school? What do you have coming in the future, and how can they get hold of you?
So to share, actually, I will share a story.
Of course.
Okay, so when I was young, I was like, I was getting into fights and stuff, but as I grew up, I got involved to fights, but maybe to break them. So I So it was a few years ago. I went to renew my own contract, and when it was time to pay, like, okay, the company, Palestra Jiu-Jitsu, like the guys there, they were asking, what do you think I'm doing, Krav Maga, or you think Kung Fu is better? I was like, yeah, it's better, it's good, everything is good, and, typical questions of Jiu-Jitsu. And at one point, this guy turns to me and it's like, oh, you know what? Like a few years ago, I noticed something. I was outside the club. It was a big fight. It was like these 30 guys trying to beat each other. And one guy started throwing people around. And so I don't really like to say this story, but it was very funny because actually it was me. Like 10 years ago. So what happened? We were in the club with my friend and my cousin. We came out and it was this big fight, and I tried to break the fight. And there's so many people that told me, I don't get involved. Actually, I didn't get involved, but then I realized that these people that were beating one person, and in one moment, this guy was like trying to disconnect from the fight. He was coming to me, and I catch him and I checked him, like, my back to
protect him.
And one of these guys throw me a punch. So in that moment, I very fast seconds, I said, okay, if I don't do anything, this guy's going to kill me. So I just threw him down. One other guy came from behind me, throw him, and I mount this guy, and I start beating him. All the guys around me, they were kicking him, but I didn't let him go. So at one point, this guy pushes and I throw an arm. I'm like, what are you doing? You're not going to break this arm. But I get up, and no one is touching anymore. It's like, I get involved. So the guy said, yeah. And I ended up being alive out of this, and maybe I'm guys also. The funny part is that this guy, like,
In the phone shop.
Watching that, and he was seeing all these things. Like, what's the chances? What are the chances? And that's why I like to say, I never said the story publicly, but it's a definitely.
And like you said before, everything's a circle. It comes back, right? So
yeah.
So how can people find about your jiu-jitsu school? You want to tell them anything?
Yeah. We're on Instagram, Palestra Jiu-Jitsu, and if you guys are visiting Cyprus or whatever, you're welcome
to visit
our gym. To visit.
Fantastic. Andreas, I'd love to say this. Thank you for coming on. You're really not just a great jiu-jitero, but from the sounds of a great person, because you actually went to the level of a real master, which is understanding that not only is it physical, it can also be emotional and spiritual in building who we are. And the fight isn't just against someone else. Sometimes it's against yourself and your behavior. So, and guys, if you like this episode, please subscribe. I'm trying to grow this podcast. And thank you very much. I'm going to put everything about Andreas's, not his whole life, but everything about his jiu-jitsu school and the beach and everything. So you can see him. I definitely say follow him and check it out. And thank you very much. And until next time, we will see you later. Grab, throw, and tap.